What up, you guys? What's up? Happy Thursday. I haven't seen y'all in about like 3 days. Alright. Um, okay, so let's get into it. First of all, I hope you're having a really good rest of your week. We're closing in on Halloween, our first holiday together, you guys. And if it's not a holiday for you, it's okay. We're gonna do it anyway. I have a good video for y'all on Halloween. This is what I was thinking about, though. I was thinking about how the narcissist will abuse you in plain sight. Yes, plain sight. Now, you're probably going, how can someone abuse you in plain sight and like no one see it? Aha, I have it. I have the answer for you. Here's one of the ways they do that. I wrote down in my little notebook that I love to write down in sometimes. I wrote going out, that's number one, and I wrote having company is number two. Let's give you the first story. So as far as going out, I'll give you mine really quickly. Even when I got married to the ex-narc, right? The day that we got married, okay? Everyone was like, we went to the courthouse, but as we were coming out of the courthouse, everyone was like, oh my God, you guys are so cute, da 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 da, right? And the whole ride there and the whole way back, and while there, he was like all smiles and nice and kisses and hugs, right? But like literally as soon as we got back, you would think, okay, first of all, you would think you would want to consummate your marriage, right? That's what most people would do. You would want to like have sex, make love, whatever you want to call it, right? With your new spouse. He didn't do it, right? He purposefully didn't do that for like a good 3 days, like or so after we were married. Like not on the day of, not the day after. He like really made sure he didn't do it. And like people would be like, oh, congratulations and stuff like that. He'd be like, oh yeah, and clap on the street with me like, yeah, we're married and all this stuff. But behind closed doors, he was secretly sexually neglecting me. He was secretly emotionally neglecting me. He was secretly physically in all ways neglecting me, right? But in public, he played the part. Do you know what I'm saying? So there was no way for me to be like, at least I could have done this, but I would have looked crazy. Had I been like, yeah, we just got married, but this fucker at home isn't actually touching me, and like he's being a douchebag behind closed doors, and A, B, C, D, F, G, right? People would have been like, no way. Like, we just saw you guys at the grocery store. We just saw you guys at that restaurant. Not that restaurant, because he didn't have no damn money at the time. Anyway. Well, we just saw you guys in your wedding clothes. You guys look so happy. Like, you're always out together, right? So then you look crazy being like, no, actually behind closed doors, this person's some straight up trash and shit. That's a way that they abuse you in plain sight. They abuse you not by abusing you like openly, right? To where other people register the shit. They abuse you by acting and playing that part of like a loving partner in public so that you think everything's all good. And then when you get home, it's not all good. But no one sees that. Therefore, you cannot talk about it in public because all the public sees is it's all good, right? And that narc's not complaining. You are, right? So who's the crazy fuck? Looks like it's you, right? Even though it's not. That's why I think there's no such thing as a genuine good time with a narcissist, because that good time is just like a show for other people. It's never really a good time. Even while the good time is happening, and that narc know, you're being abused. You're being neglected publicly, and no one knows it but the two of you. How creepy, fucked up, and sad is that? Okay? Let me give you another one real quick, though. when my dad and I and my son, when my son was young, when we lived in North Carolina and my stepmom was still alive, right? Living at my dad's house and my stepmom's house too in North Carolina, they were still married and everything like that. We had this neighbor. Now, this neighbor had been ghosted by his fiance. He had gotten this house just for his fiance and her kids. They weren't even his kids, right? And he had gotten this house next to my dad's house in North Carolina. And a whole lot of property and all this stuff. And she ghosted him and went off with another man. So he was stuck with this house that had been in the middle of, like, remodeling on the inside. And he worked as, like, a truck driver or something. So he always had to go, like, back to Texas and stuff to work or whatever. And he had hired me, and then he hired me and my dad to finish remodeling the inside of the house so he could sell it since he no longer had his fiance, right? So me and my dad would, like, go to this house and we would, like, remodel it and work on it, like, while he was out of town. Me and my dad would be in the house, like, you know, painting and such, whatever, cleaning, whatever. So when the guy got back, the guy was actually from El Salvador. And so he was awesome. And he came over one night and cooked all this, like, El Salvadorian, like, food. And it was so delicious, right? He was like, I just wanted to share, like, dinner with you guys today. And, like, he came to my dad's house. My dad was all like, yeah, everybody's, like, drinking and chilling, except for my stepmom. She didn't drink, right? But we all sat at the table and we were all talking and laughing it up and eating this food. Now, mind you, at the time, I did not know my dad was a narc yet. I didn't even really know what narcissism was back then, right? But I can remember this moment, and it really mirrored the moments that I had with my ex-narc before, kind of in the middle of the discard. Because they do this shit, like, in the middle of the discard. Somewhere in the middle of it, they'll abuse you in plain sight. So what my dad did, because, see, my dad, remember, he didn't sleep in the same room as my stepmom. He purposefully slept, like, across in the same area, but, like, in like a foyer type thing that was across from her bedroom. Remember I told you in another video, just to remind her, like, she was unwanted and undesirable. He was upstairs on the same floor. He was direct, like, if she had come out of her room, she could see him just sleeping there on a couch or something. Yeah, he was upstairs on, like, this couch, like, sleeping on the same floor across from her room intentionally every night, just to remind her how unwanted she really was, right? She never cooked. They never ate together. He never brought home food for anybody, right? So when this man came over, this neighbor that doesn't know shit about shit that's going on in this house, everybody sits down at the table and everybody's enjoying themselves, except for really what it was my dad didn't sit next to my stepmom. He sat next to the guy, the neighbor, right? And he was chuckling and laughing it up and having beers with the neighbor, knowing full well my stepmom hated when he drank. But he knew also full well she wouldn't put him on blast in front of that neighbor. So he kept drinking up all these Coronas and laughing real hard with the neighbor, making sure to tell the neighbor how delicious his food was, because he never ate what my stepmom did cook. And she really did suck at cooking, but still, he did that to put her down indirectly in a passive aggressive way, to make sure that she saw him compliment someone else's cooking and to compliment a man in front of her instead of her, right? And to sit across the table from her and not next to her. He sat across from her, and he really didn't talk to her the whole time. He would acknowledge a few things she said and chuckle and smile and act like he was laughing at maybe something she said in a good way. But really what he was doing was he was openly ignoring her. He was openly abusing her. He was openly neglecting her in front of company, right? Which he knew made her feel like shit. And I could look over at her and just her demeanor looked like she was down for the count. Do you know what I'm saying? She looked like she felt like shit. And she looked like, in her mind, like, why can't we just have a good time like this all the time? And he made sure that he let her know by being nice to everyone around her in public except for her, that she felt abused and unloved. But this is that weird position I'm telling you guys about. Had she stopped and said, hey, why are you acting like this? Everybody around her would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, you're a crazy bitch. Like, what do you mean? Everyone's having a good time. What's wrong with you? But she knew, just like he knew, that he was purposefully neglecting her in public in front of people. But he made it just nice enough so that if she said anything about it, she would look crazy. Like she was ruining fun. Right? And as soon as that neighbor left, as we were cleaning up the mess and everything like that, he went right back to not speaking to her, to going into his office, ignoring her completely. And then when she went upstairs to wait for him to go to bed, he went right back across from her room and laid right back down on that couch just to remind her, you are very much unwanted. And he abused her in publicly. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. I know it was kind of everywhere, but one of the ways the narcissist abuses you is in plain sight. And the way they do that in plain sight is to go out with you or have company and guests with you, right? And to have all this fun around you, not insult you openly, like with their words, not verbally, but they insult you in your face and in front of guests by neglecting you and purposefully doing things with those guests that they refuse to do with you behind closed doors. Okay? It's sad, but it's fucked up and true. And if anyone acts different around company than they do behind closed doors, nix that ass. Alright. Love y'all.